Silver has been used for centuries for natural human health and has proven to be an effective alternative as a defense against germs, bruises, bacteria, and disease. Mycronic silver technology is superior to other silver products and is specially formulated to work with your immune system for an affordable, natural health choice. Check out mychronicsilver.net today and see why customers are choosing Mycronic Silver, fast-acting and reliable. That's mychronicsilver.net.
Great. Hey everyone, welcome back to American Perspective this Friday with me, your host, Noél Roberts, Patriot Mom 007 here in Arizona. And we're glad to have you here at lunchtime if that's when you're joining us. If not, check out all the channels, Patriot_Mom 007 on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, and on X, it is PMom 007. You can catch us there also. And so just want to start the show out by saying welcome to the weekend. And I hope you guys had a great Labor Day last Monday. It was a great holiday and hope you had a good celebration with family and friends. Also, we have a great show today and we have an amazing guest who I got to talk to a little bit earlier, but do not know very well, but his story is very compelling. So I'm excited to have him on. And today we're going to start with a couple stories. So as usual, I always like to say so much happening in America and the world. I mean, we are at the center of everything. Trump keeps us there, I think, positively right now, because we're going to start with video number one. This is from the White House, and this was our military strike force that they conducted against Tren de Aragua, the narco-terrorists that were named terrorists earlier this year by President Trump's administration, and that allows them to go and do whatever they want, actually. So this time what they did was they found a boat, I think 11 or 12 Tren de Aragua terrorists, drug dealers, basically, were on the boat. I mean, yes, they did not make it, obviously, because you'll see, oh, there it goes. Yeah, they pretty much blew them out of the water. So I think that that's going to be a great deterrent. And hopefully that will send a loud message to all the other narco terrorists who are trying to infiltrate our country at all times and kill our people.
Silver has been used for...
And so that has been happening. So now that we've got them named as terrorists, that was the first step in the right direction. The former administration seemed to align with our terrorists in all the other countries so much that they were letting them flood in at will. And now between sending them all back with the CPB-1 self-deport app that they transformed into that self-deportation app, which is also genius of them. Now we're going to just start, I guess, blowing their ships out of the water with all the drugs. They also did that big drug bust also on the chemicals. Judge Jeanine Pirro, she was on last week, and it was the largest seizure of the chemicals, the precursor chemicals that are used in the drug making facilities here to, kill Americans and people all over the world. So we're really grateful that they're on board with that and that they've got this program going. And I think we'll see a big decrease, hopefully soon, in what they can bring over. And number two, we're going to bring up today, because this is, and I've been touting the administration. People keep saying how terrible they're doing, and I don't hear it as often on TV anymore, on the news, but I think a lot of people have to change their tune when they see what is happening. It's hard to say anything negative. But this video also from the White House, President Trump just putting more money in everybody's pocket. I mean, everything's down cost-wise. The economy is stronger no matter what is being said. You can see it in your checkbooks and in what you're spending at the stores. So wages are skyrocketing. I mean, job market is great. They added so many jobs in the last 6 months. And for American workers, just a huge win. So let's listen to number two and see what the administration's up to.
Consumer confidence is surging, blue-collar wages are rising rapidly.
Wages are rising, inflation is cooling, and American confidence is surging back.
Real wages, real take-home pay for workers is increasing.
Wages are actually rising faster than inflation for the first time in 40 years under Trump.
You're able to buy more, you're able to do more.
The average worker is up about $1,000. That's a lot in just 5 months.
Real wages increased almost 1% from January through July.
Real wages are up 1.3% over last year and have increased each month since President Trump took office.
Blue-collar wages are rising faster than they have risen in 60 years.
The only other time it's been this high was during President Trump's first term.
This administration continues to be wholeheartedly committed to putting more money back into the American people's pockets.
Yep. All right, you guys. So that's a little bit about what is going on today. And there's so much other things happening. I mean, if we could spend the whole hour on news actually, but I like to get to guests because that's really why we're here, is to bring you information and resources, things you may not have heard about. Everybody else recycles all the other news of the day and the week. And so, grateful that they do, so we don't have to really pay too much attention to it today. I do want to also acknowledge, again, I'd like to talk about Freedom Academy Charter. We're going to see a little quick video before we move into our guest B block segment for our number 3, but we're going to see our Freedom Academy video. So I sit on the board at Freedom Academy Charter School here in Phoenix, Arizona, in North Phoenix. We're K through 8. We're back to basics, non-woke school. We're very proud of it. We just came out with a parent pledge a couple weeks ago at curriculum night. And that was basically to tell our parents that they are in charge of their kids when they're at our school, and that it's kid-centric, it's focused on the families, it's focused on academics. We have no nonsense, back to basics teaching, and all of our teachers are amazing. We have a new principal who is going to be the best principal, I think, at all the schools around the area, and she is so engaged. The kids love her. The families are happy. So if you guys want any more information for Freedom Academy, we're going to see the commercial here in a minute, but you can always hit me up on DM, Patriot_Mom007 on all the channels. I'm happy to get you information if you want to move your kids to a really great school that really puts them in charge of their academics and the parents. Freedom Academy is where it's at. So let's take a look and see what we're doing at our school. All right, you guys. So we're going to go right into our guest who has been patiently waiting. He checked in a little bit earlier. We're really thankful he is so patient with us today, because he popped on earlier and then had him pop back. And you know how that goes. So this is live. This is what happens. But we're going to roll this video. So the video I'm going to show you right now is what he does. Dr. Nepute is with us today. If you haven't heard of him, it's a great story. But I wanted to highlight all that he does instead of just the storyline that we're talking about today with the DOJ and our government from the last administration and some of the, I guess, hell. Robert, am I allowed to say hell on air? I'm not sure what the words are. Okay. But the hell they put him through, and a horrific ordeal for so many of our medical practitioners around the country happened, during COVID. But in addition to that situation, he has a full practice. And so I do want to highlight that as well. So let's look at what he does, and then I'm going to give you a bio. We're going to meet him and we'll get to some questions. Go ahead, Robert.
Bring them up like I told you before, as high as you can. Go up high as you can. Okay.
Right there is where it starts off.
Okay. Can you force it any higher than that though? What about the right one? Can you go any higher with the right? Go all the way up. Force it up. That's it. That's what you got, right? Yeah. But adjust it. Just relax. Try to head back. Okay. So relax. We're going to adjust this little joint right here before we pop it. Relax. Relax. Put your arms down. Awesome. Let's get this guy right here. Dropping it down. plumb up and go up high as you can. All the way up. Go. Get up there. Get up there. Get up there. Oh man, I can do it. How long has it been since you've been able to do that with your hands?
It's been a long time.
Like how long?
A long time.
Months or years?
Almost a year.
There we go. So Nepute Wellness, right? He's a chiropractor. I love my chiropractor. That's why I show that, because I show that so when I was looking through his videos, the reason I picked that one out actually is because all right, so this is me. So that's it on the left side. Like but I have actually a torn supraspinatus. He knows what that is. Anyway, it's like your shoulder blade, basically. Not rotator cuff. I had surgery. And so I had a frozen shoulder for a year before 2012. Then they did surgery. It didn't hold. A year later, it totally tore out. Now I need a reverse shoulder replacement, apparently, which I'll probably never get because the healing is not fun. But then I saw that, and I don't know, I'm going to show that video to my chiropractor, who's also a miracle worker, actually, over here in Arizona. But maybe he can call Dr. Lerma and they can like talk to each other, and he can be like, hey, this is what you need to do. So I'm all for that collaboration if he can fix this without a major replacement. But nonetheless, this is who we're going to talk about today. And with Dr. Eric Nepute is a chiropractor, and he's a functional medicine expert known for his outspoken advocacy and willingness to defy mainstream COVID-19 protocols. As the first individual sued under the COVID-19 Consumer Protection Act, Dr. Nepute faced a $500 billion federal lawsuit for marketing vitamin D and zinc as alternative treatments, which I took, by the way, and they worked, just saying. Throughout his 3-year legal ordeal, he remained committed to patient care, reportedly treating thousands for COVID-19 without a single fatality, and has become a national figure for health, freedom, and medical integrity. So with that, we're going to welcome to the show for the first time to American Perspective, Dr. Eric Nepute. And there he is in the back. There he is.
Hello. Thank you all very much, and thanks for that lovely introduction. That video you showed was quite an old one. I still had a little bit of hair holding on in that video. So, and by the way, frozen shoulder is one of the things we specialize in. So come on over to St. Louis. We'll get you fixed up.
Oh my gosh, I wish I was on your side of town for this. That I would be there tomorrow, actually. So thank you so much for joining us today. CJ, I want to thank CJ at Book It CJ. I know you're not currently working with her, but she did connect us this week at the last minute on my request. So I appreciate you, CJ. And I appreciate you, Doctor, for being available to us today at the last minute. And so let's just get right into it, because it's kind of a heavy topic. I mean, it's been an ordeal for you for so many years with the agencies that got involved and deplatformed you. But tell us a little bit. I guess we'll start, you know, how it came about, and then the protocols, which I did mention, you know, that they said that you used that went against the mainstream COVID guidelines. And we'll start there.
Sure. So Noel, my background's a little unique and different. So yes, I'm a doctor of chiropractic. I'm also a doctor of natural medicine. I run fully integrated clinics where we have medical doctors, nurse practitioners, physical therapists, psychiatrists, pediatricians, all working under one roof to get to the root cause of people's problems. We were doing functional medicine before it was even called functional medicine. And during COVID, really in 2019, I was getting ready to open up we were getting ready to do about another 20, 25 clinics across the country. At the time, I had 32 offices of my own, also part owner of a hospital system, also part owner of 3 surgical centers. I mean, I'm in and around the healthcare space pretty deep. And in the end of 2019, we were getting ready for flu and cold season, right? I mean, and we're usually pretty good sorry about that. We're usually pretty good with flu and cold. You got me there?
I do.
Yeah, sorry. For whatever reason, we cut out.
Oh, I got you twice now. Hold on a second. Give me 1 minute. Robert, can we take him off one? Do we need to?
Can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you. He's going to fix it in the back. I think we're good.
You gotta love technology.
We're good.
So okay, let's go back to that conversation. So beginning of 2020, the end of 2019, we started seeing this nasty flu virus coming around. People were getting a persistent cough. You know, they were having symptoms, which we now know is COVID. Long story short, we're usually really good about getting to the root cause of flus, colds, etc., and coming up with some really great remedies. And we just couldn't get this one figured out in the manner as quick as we normally did. Well, then 2020 hits, we find out there's this crazy, virus that now we know all about, that was, ravaging through the world. And we, at the time, medicine, there was no solutions. Remember, early 2020, there was no solution for anything, right? And so doctors were really working on what do we do? And I was one of the U.S. representatives of a group of physicians. There were, 120 some odd countries that were talking on a regular basis. And I was on the weekly or biweekly Zooms with our teams of COVID Alliance doctors across the globe. And we were all talking about things that were helping patients because there was no solution. And we thought, hey, this is our Super Bowl. There's a respiratory virus going around. We're health and wellness experts. Let's teach people how to get healthy. And so we started using one of our remedies. It's a 150-year-old homeopathic remedy, high dose vitamin D, high dose zinc, bacteria regenerating probiotics, ivermectin, vitamin C IVs, all these common sense solutions. And from 2020 until 2024, our clinic saw over 10,000 patients positive for COVID, and nobody got sick horrible. Nobody was in the hospital. Nobody was on event, and nobody died. And instead of the government asking us what we did, they sued me for $508 billion. And they said I violated something called the COVID Consumer Protection Act. And no one had ever heard of that. Do you remember that giant omnibus bill that Trump signed in order for us to get the COVID money moving and all these weird things? There was a tiny little paragraph in there that said, if anyone uses any type of false evidence, fear, any type of whatever you want to call it, to monetize during COVID, which is exactly what Pfizer, Merck, Moderna, all these companies did. They scared the heck out of people in order for them to jump on this horrible supposed therapeutic. Well, anyway, they said if anybody violated that they were going to come after you with the full extent of the law. I was the only person that was ever sued underneath that COVID Consumer Protection Act. And if you remember when Biden came out and labeled the disinformation dozen, Kennedy, Sarah J, Sherry Tenpenny, the whole list of them. Many of those folks that I'm in that circle of individuals were wondering why was Dr. Nepute not, come after in that list? Well, 2 weeks later, I got served by the U.S. government, United States of America versus Eric Nepute, $500 billion lawsuit. And it was kind of a holy cow, holy crap moment. I don't know if you've ever been sued for $500 billion before, but it's
no.
but long story short, we stood our ground because we were right, have the science correct on our side. I fought them for 4 exhausting years. The story and the battle we went through is absolutely insane. And I don't know if you know this, but in a lawsuit, a lot of times they can ask a judge to give what's called a rule of summary judgment. So right before my final, because I was supposed to have a trial and it got delayed 3 different times because the government said they weren't ready to go to trial. They sued me for $500 billion, but they weren't ready to go to trial. And I was ready. I had all the science, all the data. If we get into the details, it'll blow your listeners' minds about what we had. And the government did not want this to go to trial. They didn't want this information in the records. They didn't want, this to get out. They didn't want court precedent to be set. So when the Department of Justice asked my judge, who oversaw this case, rule of summary judgment, the judge says, easy, no problem. You're never going to convict this guy of anything. He didn't do anything wrong. He's completely innocent. And I don't know if you know this, but we don't really like the government in Missouri. That's where I live, is in St. Louis, Missouri. And so the judge told that to the DOJ, and the DOJ then said, all right, to me and my legal team, we'll give you a couple choices. We know we're not going to win. We know we're not going to win at trial. We know that if we do lose, when we do lose, we're going to go ahead and appeal this, drag this out for the next 2 years, cost you another $2 million. By this time, I'd already spent $5.5 million defending myself against our own government, by the way. And so I said, okay, they know they can't win. If they go to trial, they're going to appeal it, drag me through court for another 2 years, try to bankrupt me because that's how they win. And then when I do win, they said, well, put me under a gag order and I can sue them or fight for my legal fees back. I said, that doesn't sound like a good order. I don't want to be under gag order by the Department of Defense, by the way. Think about that. Yeah. They got to go to war with people. I'm
pretty
just
serious.
Pretty serious. The second option they said was, we can settle right now. We're going to put you under a gag order. And, we can talk about your legal fees coming back, but the $20 million in revenue that you lost because of what the government did to me, you're not going to touch any of that. And I said, what's the third option? Because I don't like either of those. They said, third option is this. We'll do a walk away right now. You cannot sue us back. We'll give you letters that say that you're not under investigation, that you did nothing wrong, that you are not anymore being persecuted by the government. But you can't sue us back. And you can go on television, radio, you can write books, you can say whatever you want about what it is that we did to you, but you're not getting a penny of your money back that you lost. Wow. And I said, so you're either giving me my freedom or you're giving me money. And within 30 seconds, I said, I'm happy to sign for my freedom and I'm going to go out and do what I was called to do. So that's a very abbreviated version, but it was a pretty crazy time. That's for darn sure.
Well, and your family, I mean, you're not an island. So, you have a family and your patients. I mean, the toll that this must have taken on both must have been extraordinarily beyond comprehension for them, obviously. For you, the stress you were under. I mean, here you are, a doctor managing people's stress for a living. And I mean, who was managing your stress at that time? I mean, and the support. I mean, how did the family handle it? I mean, the financial end of it is, of course, devastating. I mean, no matter what you have in the bank, if it's 3 times that amount, it's not relevant. It's still, you've worked so hard for what you have. For them to strip you out like that is awful. And then your patients, the stress, I'm sure your patients stuck with you. I'm just guessing just from meeting you here, which is barely meeting you. But I can tell you come right through the Zoom like how you are. So I'm sure your patients were all behind you and on board, I would think, for the most part.
Well, Noel, first of all, during the pandemic, most people who are, how do I say this, awake to what's really happening, they knew this was political science, not real science. And not only did our patients rally around me, the global community rallied around me. I mean, it was amazing the support that I was getting, the prayers that we were getting. Because listen, I figured out early on that this is not about science. This is not about right or wrong. I'm reminded that we fight not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and rulers in high places. This was a spiritual battle, always has been and always will be. And so, my family and we have a strong family. If it wasn't for my faith and who I am and whose I am, and if it wasn't for my family, my wife and I have been together since we were in the 8th grade. She's my absolute best friend. And we got through this together. But I remember the day I came home and told my kids, I said, I want to have a meeting with the family. I have a 20-year-old son, a 17-year-old daughter, and a 12-year-old daughter. And I said, listen, you're going to see dad all over the news, which, by the way, in St. Louis, that wasn't a big thing for them anyway, because we've always been a big pillar in this community for over 20 years, helping hundreds of thousands of people get healthy, and I said, look, dad is going to be persecuted a little bit here. And I want to give you guys a chance to communicate to me on what do you want to do? Because the government offered me an $8 million settlement the first week that they sued me. They offered me, by the way, listen to this. Listen, this is hilarious. I don't know if you've ever been in a lawsuit before, but any lawyers listening will go, how does this even work? So they sued me, and it took them about 6 weeks for them to tell me what they were suing me for. So we asked them, okay, how do we defend ourselves if we don't know what you're saying that we did was wrong? It took them 6 weeks for the government to tell us what we did wrong. There was no common sense or no really process to this whole deal. But, as far you came back and we're talking about family, and I sit down with my family and I said, listen, the government is coming after me. If I don't settle with them, I can pay them $8 million right now, and they'll give me a little spanking on the wrist and let me go about life and about my business. And I said, if I don't, and I stand up against them, I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know how much it's going to cost. It's going to be a tremendous amount of stress on me and on the family and everything, but I want to know, what do you guys want? Because your name's going to get drugged through the mud. I mean, globally, my name was drugged through the mud during that time. And my family literally said, Dad, we know you're right. You're doing the right thing. We support you 100%. Whatever you want to do, it's just another Tuesday in the Nepute household, and we're willing to stand no matter what. And we did. And I'll tell you, my family's relationship, my wife and I's relationship got better during that time. My relationship with my children got better and stronger at that time. It's amazing what happens when you stand on principles that you truly believe in. See, many people in life say they stand on things, but when they get an opportunity to prove that, a lot of times they don't get a chance to really prove that. Well, we got that chance, and we stood and we proved it. And I'm going to tell you, not too many people can say this, but one of the absolute best things that ever happened to me was when the United States government and a corrupt administration sued me for $508 billion. And I can guarantee you, I'm the only person on the planet that could ever say that.
I would say so. I mean, the fact that they found some weird law that they implemented, as they did with so many other people.
They made it up. They made the law up. Noel, listen to this.
Well, they put it in the bill, like, in theory, it was in writing, right? So they just stuck it in and then they implemented it. No, I get that they shoved it down in that bill for that reason, so that they could start using it however they want, because they were making things up as they went along just to satisfy what they were trying to accomplish with their agenda. I 100% am behind that they did that. It's just amazing to me that, I mean, still we all lived through it. And the reason I wanted you on, so when CJ brought you to me, and I know a lot of people think, oh, COVID is 5 years ago. It's done. We're over it. And we are. In Arizona, where I was, I mean, we didn't really wear masks. My kids were back in school in like 6 weeks. My salon, actually, I worked through it. We were closed, but my clients who were even their 70s and 80s, they all came in unmasked. Like, I held their hand for the hour. Like, it was no big deal over here. But I know that they use these laws that they put into place to, like, shut us down. And I don't want people to forget. That's why your story is so important still today. And it will be forever, actually, because these things can happen at any moment. And people have to understand that just because our lives have all gone back to normal relatively, except for the crazy people who are still masked in the cars, which I see still, which is still crazy, that we need to not forget what the governments can do. And the only way to do that is to talk about the stories of what happened in the last few years. And yours is a prime example of that. And so back to your family, obviously I could see, and I saw the pictures, you have a beautiful family. So I had a strong feeling that it was a strong bond and that you guys were working through it together. Nonetheless, the stress is there, but your patient's workload too, and your practice had to take a hit at some point because and I have been involved in lawsuits, so on a very small scale, but I do a lot of my own stuff. So it's time consuming. Just going to court, the summaries, the recalls back to your hearings, like, it's just time consuming. So that takes away from your business. So how were you managing that with your patients? Did you have backup? Did the patients just kind of hold pattern for a while, or what was that like?
Well, I'm a very system-driven person, so I have my practices all run on systems, right? So how do you help more people? We see hundreds of people a day in our clinics. Why is that? And why are we at a 90% success rate with what we do? Because we have a system and process that allows us to do that. So thank God we have those systems in place that I could continue to see patients, but I could also continue to fight what we're fighting against, because the government tried to censor and silence me at all costs. They said, we don't want you talking about the case. We don't want you traveling and talking, on these stages about, what's happening. And so I did that. I was every weekend somewhere speaking across the globe about this. I mean, you tell me I can't do something, especially when you're doing me wrong, I'm going to scream it from the mountaintops. And we did. And listen, I traveled to the Middle East. I was in Japan. I was in Europe. I was all over the United States. I mean, we were everywhere explaining what it was that we were up against and really what we're fighting. And you're right. It's not just about COVID. That time was crazy, but that can happen again. I tell my children all the time and my patients, if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it, right?
That's right.
And by the way, this has happened before. I mean, the Spanish flu of 1918, we went through almost the exact same things that happened then. So if we don't tell these stories and we don't see that literally lives, I mean, we're talking about millions of lives were lost and ruined for no reason other than political gain. I mean, I'm clearly able to say that. Right before I was going to our last final trial, well, the time that it was set for, a 600,000 person study came out from the VA. The United States government put out a study about vitamin D. And they said that if politicians, doctors, and scientists would have been talking about the benefits of vitamin D alone during the pandemic, we could have saved the lives of several million people in the US alone just in the year 2020 and 2021. How many millions of lives were lost because we didn't communicate these things?
Right. Or let our professionals, as yourself, lead the charge instead of the people behind the desks with the pencils in the offices. So I want to bring up, Robert, if we could bring up that video I have. Oh, did I mark it for, I think, the 1.16 on time? Yeah. I want to bring that up now because he did mention the vitamin D and this is from an interview. So I want to go into that protocol a little bit specific. Go ahead.
Even the head scientists note that the number one guy that put us in the middle of this, Anthony Fauci, I think we have a headline. What did he recommend outside of the vaccine? Fauci says that he takes vitamin D and C supplements and that they can lessen your susceptibility to infection. And we even found a video of him talking about this. So let's go ahead and put this on the evidence playing field. Take a look at this.
Should moms be doing something just to boost our kids' immune system? You know, do you need more vitamin C? Do they need more spinach? Is there anything we should be doing? Elderberry.
There are two vitamins that you should consider. For example, if you are deficient in vitamin D, that does have an impact on your susceptibility to infection. So I would not mind recommending, and I do it myself, taking vitamin D supplement. The other vitamin that people take is vitamin C because it's a good antioxidant. So if people want to take a gram or two at the most of vitamin C, that would be fine. So vitamin C and vitamin D, okay.
It's really amazing, too, when they talk about products like they were saying to you, just don't promote products that don't have any, scientific evidence. Right.
Yeah, so that was Del Bigtree. You were on with him. And so I thought that was an amazing clip. So the expert, Dr. Fauci, who we know is probably, I don't know, I guess at one time he was an expert. I think he went down a very bad rabbit hole of greed and corruption. And now he was not an expert. He was just had an agenda. It was sad. And so it was perfect example, though, of what he said not to do and what they came after you for versus what he himself says you could have done with Jennifer Garner over there. And that must just infuriate you to even see the clip and know what they did with the vitamin D protocols that you were promoting that we all took. We did it over here in Arizona. It was very popular with ivermectin. We have horse, places all over the place. We have farming everywhere in Arizona. So there's these places, I don't know, what do you call them? I don't even know what they are, but you just go in, there's hay bales and there's a lot of stuff for animals and then you get your ivermectin paste. So I don't know, but we all keep it in the house. So it works. But tell me about that. So the vitamin D, and how did you guys, the community, your medical community who was involved in this side of the treatment, how did you guys even decide to go with that route when they were pushing, other alternatives?
Well, Noél, there was no treatment for anything out there for COVID. There wasn't, and really even until they, released the emergency use authorization, which was the whole thing about my case was protecting the EUA, which I can talk about that if you'd like as well. But it's common sense. Like in my world, we know, I don't know how doctors don't know that if you're deficient in vitamin D, that you have a higher risk of infection. That's just common knowledge. It's also common knowledge that zinc and zinc ionophores also have antiviral properties. It's also common knowledge that vitamin C intravenously can help ward off sepsis, which is what we were doing and hospitals were doing for a while as well. And by the way, when the government came at us and they said, look, there's not even one study that supports what you're saying. If you go to the website, c19early.com, that's c19early.com, Dr. Harvey Risch put this together. There's 300 plus studies on vitamin D and COVID alone and 75 on zinc. And all the government wants to have proof is 2. And so they stepped in the biggest landmines. They were ignorant to the fact, and they didn't know all the things that we knew. In fact, when the government came after me, their expert witness was a medical doctor here in St. Louis, Missouri, who has never treated one COVID patient in his life. We ran a private investigation on this expert witness, and we found out that he personally received a $9 million grant from NIH and NIAID to make COVID vaccines. So he had 9 million reasons not to allow me to go to the stand to tell this. When we told that to the judge was like, you guys got to settle this case. This cannot, it's a mockery of the legal system. So listen, ignorance is bliss, but it infuriates me when you're right about something. I don't really care what you do. You do whatever you want to do. You have freedom and free will. God gave us all free will and discernment to do whatever we want, but you should have the freedom to choose. And that's what is my problem. And I just have a big issue with bullies. I always have my entire life. And I've always just been that guy that stood up against, when Monsanto was doing what they were doing years ago in St. Louis, we stood up against them. They came after me for showing the data on how Roundup causes cancer. Well, guess what?
Right.
$3 billion class action lawsuit later, who's right again? We're 100% for all the stuff we've gone after because we base it off of facts and science. And now the big thing, Noel, I want to say this, the big thing that we really knew what we were doing and we really felt called was we're going around destroying the spirit of fear, because there was so much fear happening during COVID, and fear is nothing more than false evidence appearing real. And how do you get rid of that fear? You have to have two things. Number one, you have to have faith. You have to have faith in your body's ability to heal itself. And then you got to have facts of what you can do to help support that. And what we were really telling people is we need more people less sick. It's really that simple. The people who got the sickest and ultimately didn't do well, these people were already overweight. They already had deficiencies of nutrients. They already had toxicities. They already had pre-existing conditions. We were simply giving a solution that, by the way, I was just at one of the hospitals here in St. Louis visiting a friend of mine who is one of the internists at the hospital. And I said, hey, what are you guys doing now for COVID? He said to me, you're going to blow your mind when you hear this. He goes, we give him an IV ringer bag of fluids. We tell him to go home, get some rest, take vitamin D, vitamin C, and zinc. And if it's not better in a week, come back and talk to us. That's literally the protocol of what we recommended for people.
So basically how to treat a cold.
Exactly, because that's what it is. It's a cold.
Exactly. What's so crazy is I was at a meeting last night here and with very educated people in this respect who definitely would align with what your version of everything and my version as well. And somebody had called in, it was an elected official meeting, and somebody had called in, they couldn't attend, and they read out loud, oh, so-and-so can't be here. His wife, he blah, blah, whatever. His wife actually ended up texting us to say that he tested positive for COVID. When they said that out loud on at the stage, I couldn't even believe they announced that last night, that he tested positive for COVID. So therefore he couldn't be with us because basically he's sick at home and has a cold. And of course can transmit. So we don't go out when we're sick. We never have. Since I was a child, fever, sore throat, anything resembling something you can pass on, you had to stay home. So I don't know how this got to be any different. I do know that the fear factor was huge, and they used it to push all these other agendas that we didn't know were coming down the pipeline. Although President Trump was there at that time, and I just suspect he must have just, overwhelmed from his first, appointment, didn't have the right people around him. Some of what he did, I think, was good. The Operation Warp Speed, I guess it was good for those who it helped. So my parents were in their 90s, 93, when my dad was 93 when this took place. He had COVID, in January of 2020, he had COVID before the vaccine came out. And he was in and out of the hospital. And my mom got it. She was just a few years younger. And then he got it again in March. And then he had to get the shot because he actually broke a femur in March. Also, he had to go in the hospital. And of course, you couldn't be admitted without it at that point when it was released. And they both had had a booster, which I asked them not to do, but they are in their 90s. He's 98 now this month. But he survived COVID. My mom had it twice. I had it twice with nothing other than what you're suggesting we use, which is our supplements. Vitamin D, always been deficient. Used to take 50,000 IUs, I guess it was, by prescription. So now I'm just trying to get in the sun, which I don't know if that is as effective as the supplements for us these days?
We know that if you get in the sun within about the first 20 to 30 minutes of the sun coming up, it's got some very healthy UV rays. That 20 minutes in the sun is the equivalent of like 20,000 to 30,000 IUs a day of vitamin D. So yeah, I'm big in the sun, and I'm also big in supplementing. I mean, if you look at vitamin D, and by the way, the biggest reason why we were so loud about vitamin D, we already had the common sense, understanding of how it works and what it does. But the month prior to that, at the time, the Prime Minister of the UK had just came out and said that they're going to give 1 million dosages of vitamin D to the most susceptible people in the UK because of the risk factors of COVID. And these are people who have dark skin. These are people who are overweight, people who are older, and diabetics. And they gave 1 million dosages out to those people. Why? Because the science supported if your vitamin D was low, you had a higher risk of infection. And vitamin D also helps so that the cytokine storm, when the immune system starts going wild, it turns it down. So we now know that if your vitamin D is between a 60 and a 100 on a blood test, it reduces all-cause mortality, period. And that's what people should be focusing on.
Well, thank you for sharing some of that data, because these are not facts that we ever hear over in America. We don't know that they were dosing 1 million doses of vitamin D in the UK. I mean, they don't present that to us, and nobody knows that. Again, nobody even knows that some of this stuff is still going on. It's relevant to today. We need to be aware so that we can prevent these things from happening in the future, because God knows what they're going to be bringing us down the pipeline. I mean, right now we're in a safe zone, I think, with President Trump in office and all the hammers he's putting down, but he doesn't control everything or everyone. And so you really never know around the corner what could happen to individuals like yourself, professionals in the medical field or otherwise. And, I've talked with Dr. Simone Gold and Dr. McCullough and some of those professionals as well throughout that ordeal for them. And so it wasn't one person, it wasn't one field, it wasn't just internal, it wasn't just MD. Now, I didn't know they went after a chiropractor. I mean, to me, that's crazier. But we're glad you came through it as well as you did. And we did show your website earlier too. I just want people to be aware that you're practicing and they can find you, because there's a lot that you offer. I did want to ask you, the BioLimitless, is that something, I'd like you to talk about that a little bit, because I saw some information on it, but I didn't really get into it. So why don't you share with us about that?
Yeah, so let me tell you, the BioLimitless, the whole idea behind BioLimitless is, first of all, I started that concept prior to COVID. I was working on it during COVID and realized in 2021 how important it was to do that. So I was building this, which is a parallel healthcare ecosystem where we know that self-care is the real healthcare. People don't trust their doctors anymore. They don't trust the politicians. They don't trust the system. It's broken. Insurance is a joke. So what if we were able, from the convenience of your own home, for you to be able to have all the testing, all the therapeutics, all the stuff that you need to make yourself healthy? And it's about educating people. It's not about vitamins, not about minerals. It's about you understanding what you need to do to help yourself and knowing your risk factors. And there are so many amazing tests. Listen, we practice functional medicine. I told you, I'm a doctor of chiropractic. We practice naturopathic medicine, homeopathy, and allopathic medicine, all under all my practices. So we put together a direct-to-consumer approach, and we've already launched this in Japan, in the Middle East, in Europe, in the US. We've got another big launch we're doing the 15th of September, and people are now really getting people are excited because they have somewhere to go to learn how to take care of themselves. And it's a really exciting program that we've been working on. And we have a lot of global support. We have several countries in Europe that have asked to put this system into their healthcare system because it saves time, energy, money, and it gets right to the root of the problems.
Wow.
And it's right up the alley of what we're doing with Make America Healthy Again here in the States as well.
Yeah, we love the MAHA movement. I mean, that's been really strong this year. here, Robert Kennedy Jr. I mean, I saw him at Congress, the congressional hearing yesterday where they just beat him up all day, which was also ridiculous. But the MAHA movement's been really strong. I've been talking to a lot of the founders of some of the companies this year. I met them in December here in Turning Point at an event. And I would just say to you, if you're going global, what about Arizona? How do we get you in Arizona?
I just had an amazing event in Scottsdale about 4 months ago. When I'm back out there again, see, we've been very quiet about what we're doing because I don't want to tell the devil what we're doing until it's done. And it's done now. So now we can
Will you
come
be
back.
here in December by chance for our Turning Point event? We have
I've been
4-day.
I'm going to try to make it out to this one. I've got I'm supposed to do some speaking in Japan around the same time, but I'm going to try to come so I can come out to Arizona and be with you guys.
Yeah, because it's that middle of December time, around the 18th or so. And so, yeah, we'd love to see you. I mean, the people I met this last year, John Richardson and then of course Jeff Adam with Mycronic Silver. I don't know if you know those guys, but Nessa, do you know Nessa? Do you know Nessa's hemp? Like these are amazing people, like products that I never heard of, and we all learned to buy products off the shelf at GNC. That was like the best place to get your supplements over Walmart or CVS, and then we find out GNC they stock their shelves from the same manufacturers that so does Walmart and CVS. So it was all bad stuff. It was all fillers. We just didn't know. We weren't educated that there's all these clean products out there, and learning about them has been really mind blowing for me because as I get older in my half century plus mark, you realize you got to take health into your own hands at some point or it will control you. And I see that with my parents with the drugs and the medicines and all that they, in their 90s that they have them on. And we've backed them off considerably this last couple of years. But at a certain age, there's some things you just need to make you function better at a certain point. And I would say that about COVID too. I mean, I don't one way or the other about the shots. I mean, I didn't take it. I wouldn't let my kids take it. I don't know very many people who did take it out here, but my parents did it at 90 something. And I guess for the demographic that you were highly susceptible and there was a vaccine, so to speak, it wasn't a vaccine, but to help eliminate the problem or death at that point, I guess that was an okay risk reward situation for those at the highest risk level when that first came out. Now, I'm not sure where you stand on that because, they just changed the schedule for the kids, thank God, because they don't need any more shots. But and the elderly, I heard the other day the UK has it set at 75. Another country has it set at 70. We have it, or 65. We had it have it set at 55, I think, for shots still. So how do you feel about going forward with that jab? Where should people be on that?
I think it's really important for people to understand what health really is. I think it's really important for people to understand their own individual situation. I think it's really important for people to understand what types of resources that they have access to so they can make an informed decision on where they're at and what they should be doing. I'll just tell you that my family and we have no desires for any of that. We look at the science, we look at the data. I've got hundreds and thousands of patients that are in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. They're all doing amazing. They're all making their informed choices because they know that self-care is the real healthcare. And as far as the reason why the schedule changed, it's because Secretary Kennedy removed the emergency use authorization, which should have been removed in 2021 or at least 2022, whenever the emergency was already gone. And so now what that means is when the emergency use authorization is gone, liability is now back on the hands of the manufacturers. And that's what they don't like. They don't like the fact that they have to prove that their medications, their vaccines, their drugs, whatever, are safe and effective. With the emergency use authorization, there had to be a reasonable suspicion of safety and efficacy, reasonable compared to who, and who get to make that decision. Now that's gone. Now they got to play by real science. And if you have a problem with showing that your science is real and that what you're doing is safe and effective, then we got a problem. And that's where I stand on that whole conversation. I really appreciate our time together.
That's fair enough. I appreciate that too. Holistically looking at it, yes, you need to talk with your doctors and you need to look at your own personal situation health-wise and what you need or don't need as the case may be, and then go from there. I agree with that 100%. And that's really how it should have been all along. Nobody should have been telling anybody what to do. It's certainly not disclosing anything or asking what you did with any of your personal information as that's happened. Is there anything else that we haven't covered? I know we're going to wrap it here in a couple of minutes. So if there's anything else you want to share about your practice, your website, where let's say where they can find you. I've got it down on the lower thirds, but what's the best place for people to find you?
Just go to ericnepute.com. That's ERICNEPUTE.com. We're all over social media. We're all over all the platforms, and I'm really excited. Pay attention to what's going on. The 15th of September, we got some big announcements to make, and it's really going to change the way that healthcare is delivered and received. And I think people are going to be blown away when they see this. So I'll come back when you're ready to have me, and we can go deeper on that.
Yeah, after you launch some of what your next phase of things are, we'd love to have you back and catch up and give that to our audience with resources. They can find everything in my links. So this is why I do this, is people just don't always hear these other stories. I mean, you do have to sometimes find them, and they don't highlight anything like this anymore. And so not as they should anyway. And so, I mean, we really do want to get the information out so people can be as informed as possible going forward, not just what happened in the past, but now making their lives so much better, and their families and their kids' lives. I have 2 grown adult sons in their 20s, and they're all about the new supplements. Like, they don't do GNC. They don't do, they are looking at the companies that you can get online, maybe not FDA approved, but now I feel like non-FDA approved might be better because there's not, the money isn't involved, and there's the packs and the payoffs. So now I just say, if it's not FDA approved and I see the infomercial, I'm probably going to look into it. Honestly, I think that might be the way to go. So we really appreciate all that you've done, everything that you've stood for. I know it was just a monumental challenge and battle uphill, and we're glad to see that these stories come out on the other side to the benefit of the people who are in the right after all, and who know what they were talking about to begin with. That's so important to tell people also, that you guys, the forefront of the medical industry, who was saying all this stuff in the beginning, January 2020 is in fact what we should have been listening to. And it's really important that people understand that still today. That's true. So get your vitamin D, people, certainly in Arizona. So thank you, Dr. Nepute. Anything else you'd like to share?
No, thank you guys. Have an amazing day. I look forward to coming back. And on that message you just said, last thing I'll leave you with, and then I got to get going, is when I testified in front of Congress, one of the congressmen said in front of the entire gallery, he said, listen, Dr. Nepute and his colleagues were correct about COVID. What else are they correct about that we should be listening to them about when it comes to our health and the health of our children? And,
right.
and I think that's really important. So, yeah, so thank you again for having me.
Thanks for being here. Have a wonderful weekend.
Bye-bye.
Take care. So interesting. That was so interesting. So everything we were doing, or some of us were doing, that we had heard about from people like Dr. Simone Gold, Dr. McCullough, and others, just to name a few. Here, Dr. Nepute over there was doing it on that side of town as well. And we were being led to believe that they were wrong. I mean, for those of us who had a little bit of hint that the government was not correct, we were already redirecting our energies and listening to the alternative viewpoints. And so I'm not saying it's right or wrong, whatever you chose at the time, because the information was a little scattered and chaotic. But now, a few years later, we have such great information that you can, lean into for yourself, your health, and your families, that I think you should start maybe examining where you were going with the supplements or not supplements, and just forward with what your body needs to make it healthy for things that come up in the future, because you just don't know what that's going to be, whether it's just the common cold, whether it's COVID tested, or the flu, or any variation of any of those, actually, which is what happens, that we are just as prepared as possible, because, your health is your life. And if you're not healthy, you can't help others around you be healthy. We talk about community health and national health and federal health all the time. And that starts really with you as a person in your house, and just being as informed as possible with the best products you can provide. We talked earlier, I have my top of the hour commercial, my chronic silver. Let's see. Oh, there. Oh, yeah, we're doing that. Oh, look. Robert's got my camera. Oh, yay. All tuned up. So my chronic silver. So I don't usually talk about this one, but I'm going to today because I burned myself last week on a pan. And this is just something really simple. It looks like Vicks Vapo Rub. Actually, it's just this clear product, odorless, colorless, and you just take a little teeny dab and you just put it on any of the abrasions, anything, cuts, scrapes, whatever, bug bites. And it does speed up from what I've been able to tell. And I've been using it for about 8-9 months now, along with the other products. So I would just say, as I do, just get on my Chronic Silver website. Patriot Mom 007 will get you 10% off. I also do like to mention, I did earlier, John Richardson, rncstore.com and nessashemp.com. They're on my they're on my sites and in the descriptions. The Patriot Mom 007 will get you 10% with all of them. For RNC Store, they do have some bundles they offer, and it'll be 30% actually total when you do checkout with the bundle. So you want to check those out. You can buy one product or a few products or the bundles. There's no memberships to these companies, which I really appreciate. And so you can really control what you're getting and try one thing at a time just to see how it works. But I cannot recommend the Chronic Silver enough. And I love the nasal spray. So I'll leave it at that. And then we are going to, MAGA Minute has gotten longer than a minute the last few weeks. We're at like almost going into 2.5 minutes now. Not quite there yet, but there's so much happening every single week that poor Carolyn Levitt can barely wrap it in a minute anymore. And this last week, President Trump putting America first is no different whatsoever. He had that long 3+ hour cabinet meeting. It's never happened in the history of the White House. And he's been very generous with his time around these meetings and having all the reporters in to ask the questions. He's continuing that in strong fashion. And so we marked the anniversary of Abbey and that bombing, the 13 U.S. soldiers that were lost that day. Also, we have DC crime in our state's capital down 20% overall. They're still collecting guns every day. They're still rounding up the criminals as we speak by the thousands. I think we're in the 1,400-ish of being rounded up in the last few weeks. Lowest gas prices in a long time. And of course, they have the new AI challenge that they brought up. Melania Trump was hosting an event yesterday about this. So you want to check out what they're doing in that respect. We're trying to beat out China, of course, as we always do. And I think we have a good chance at that. And then, of course, we have Cracker Barrel, which I have not eaten there in 20 years. I didn't even know they existed. I think we have one here in Arizona. But they did this huge revamp. Nobody seems to learn from the Bud Light scenario or debacle. And so I think they might be changing things back a little bit and rehydrating their old brand. People liked it. But we're going to hear from Carolyn. She's going to go through it a little bit more comprehensively and see what has been happening in America this past week.
Welcome to the MAGA Minute. First, I want to address the horrific shooting that took place at the Annunciation Catholic Church in Minneapolis, Minnesota. President Trump signed a proclamation immediately following the shooting, acknowledging the victims and their families and directing flags to be flown at half-staff. President Trump and the First Lady encouraged the entire nation to join us in praying for the victims and their families as they face unimaginable grief and loss. We will continue to provide further updates as they become available. Also this week at the White House, President Trump held a 3-hour and 17-minute-long cabinet meeting, setting a record for the longest televised event in presidential history. He also hosted the South Korean president in the Oval Office, as well as the Abbey Gate Gold Star families, after which he signed the first ever proclamation to commemorate the sacrifice of the 13 brave souls who lost their lives on that tragic day. President Trump also signed an executive order to protect Americans by ensuring federal policies and resources are not used to support cashless bail policies across the nation, which have been a complete and total disaster. And the president's crackdown on crime in Washington, D.C. is working. Total crime is down almost 20%. Violent crime is down 30%. Carjackings are down 67%. Homicides are down 40%. And robberies are down 40% right here in our nation's capital. The Dow Jones reached a record high, and the Congressional Budget Office, often partisan and left-wing, was forced to admit that tariffs will reduce our nation's deficit by $4 trillion. This Labor Day, gas prices are projected to be at their lowest in half a decade. And First Lady Melania Trump announced the Presidential Artificial Intelligence Challenge, inviting K through 12 students and educators across our country to participate. Vice President Vance delivered remarks in La Crosse, Wisconsin, touting the administration's many historic accomplishments. And finally, amid pressure from President Trump, Cracker Barrel announced it would revert back to its OG logo. It's been a great week, and we wish you a very happy Labor Day. We'll see you for next week's MAGA Minute.
Wow. So, like I said, jam-packed, and the proclamations were amazing that he did. I don't know, people might not think they mean anything, but it's an acknowledgement of what happened with our 13 soldiers who died at Abbey Gate. And of course, those at the Annunciation Church in Minneapolis this last week and a half ago. It's just nice to recognize that, and that he does that. Of course, things going down as far as dollars go, and the rates of murder, homicide, 40% in DC going down. I mean, these are all really good things. And those who are still saying he's a terrible president, a dictator, I'm not sure the dictators around the world are working on these things exactly in their countries. I don't hear about that anyway. So I'm still waiting for somebody to explain to me, please, your feedback is always important, why you think he's still a bad president in any way, shape, or form. Personality aside, we have to leave the personality off the table, because we're not really judging him on that. We're really just judging him on the job he's doing in office and how it's affecting everyone, positive or negative. And right now we're in a positive upward trajectory. So again, comments are welcome, and I'd love to hear that argument at any time. Please do write in. Patriot_Mom007 on all the channels. But you could maybe live chat today. I'm not really sure how that's working. We're still getting our feet wet on the chat stuff, but if it's available, chat in. I would love to hear from you guys. So we always, going into our wrap today, it's been a great show with Dr. Nepute. There's things I didn't know that he mentioned. These small details that they don't report to us, they are important, even about how the UK was giving shots out for the vitamin D. And we don't even know that they're doing that. And a lot of times the European countries seem to be a little bit ahead of the curve than we are as the world superpower. So I'm not sure why that is still happening ever, that anyone would be ahead of us, especially on these simple things that we have so many experts here helping us learn that should be done. But nonetheless, that's how it is. So we're grateful we have the experts on with us on American Perspective, for you guys to check out for yourself and hear firsthand the information you may not get elsewhere. And always in the descriptions, you can find our information on our guests. But I do want to thank you today for tuning in to American Perspective with your host, me, Noél Roberts, Patriot Mom 007 here in Arizona. It's a beautiful weekend. It's cooling down. We're almost in the 90s now, and storms have brought us to the 80s. So, I mean, it's a great time to visit if you're going to visit. It was 117 recently, though, so just keep that in mind if you want to stay. But always want to thank Robert Johnson. He, as he does every week, unraveled a bunch of stuff at the beginning for me. Very grateful. He now understands exactly what I'm asking, because he's in California and I'm in Arizona, so he can't see what I'm doing. But now he understands what's going on enough to tell me, wait, no, this one goes there and this one goes there. So Robert, thank you so much. You saved the day again. And that's a fact. And if you guys want to learn more about Dr. Nepute, you always can find the resources and links to his information on my information and descriptions at Patriot_Mom007 on all the channels except X. You can follow, like, and share. We hope you will even just share. And if the other two don't apply, sharing is important. Sharing is caring. That's what they say. I think it still holds true here. And on Facebook, Instagram, Truth, Rumble, and YouTube, it's Patriot_Mom007. Like I said, on X, it is PMom007. Find us there live, as well as Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble also. Arizona Live Data on Facebook. You can check that out. And JData17 for Robert's channels. He does the lives all around the country. You want to check that out. On Facebook, you can find JData17 and X, and you can see what he has been up to, broadcasting live from so many areas around the country that matter to you most in your districts and your regions, with your utilities and your government officials. So check that out too. And as always, things are happening so fast and we're all so busy, but it's very important, if you're going to get involved, to get educated. And whatever that looks like, whether you become a precinct committee women for your legislative district. You can get on your .gov websites in your community. You can put your address in. It'll tell you everything about how you can plug in that respect or others. Volunteerism is very big come election time. They need help in all levels, in all states, really at all times. And we've got elections that are going to be coming up again here very quickly. If you don't know what's happening, the challenges within your community, you're not going to be able to correct them if you're not educated to help for your family, your friends, just your own personal well-being. And that includes, not just your local level, your county, your state, but also it goes to your federal, because we all have to work together to make this as perfect as possible of a union that we can have. And it doesn't happen by accident. People have to do the work to make it good. Elections are around the corner, like I mentioned. There's some really interesting, scary seats up for grabs. Certainly New York, if you're over there and you're listening, Mamdani, please, I beg of you in Arizona, even though you're far, far removed from us, please do not vote for this person. Communism is right around the corner. They're going to implement crazy stuff, as New York does anyway and has for so many years. We want it to improve there as the rest of the country is improving, not decline. So always vote. It's very important. It's what you have to make our world a better place for you and your family as well. Vote your conscience, but also pay attention to what people are saying, what they've said before, and who they align with now. Because if it's the criminals or the communists, we don't want those people in office. But other than that, vote away. And I hope you all have a really great weekend. I don't think there's anything monumental coming up this weekend. It's just going to be a fun Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Hopefully you will have fun with your family, your friends, whatever you do, maybe a little rest and relaxation. And we also look forward to next Friday, you joining us back again. We're going to have Sheriff Richard Mack, SPCOA. It's the Sheriff's Association he belongs to, or he runs. And so we're looking forward to catching up. We haven't talked with him since December. So we'll hear what is going on in that respect with our law enforcement here in Arizona and around the country. And if you catch us at lunchtime at noon, that's when we are on every Friday. That's Pacific and Mountain. And check the time zones in your area as well, because they are changing now that we've hit fall officially last week. But we look forward to having you back here again on American Perspective with your host, Noél Roberts, Patriot Mom 007. Until then, have an amazing week ahead. And Robert, with that, you can take us out.